Welcome. Hi, everyone. It's Chris again from Engaging Data, and we're back with another Engaging Data Bites session today, where we'll be talking all about contextual analytics with our partners at Yellowfin. Now, for over 20 years, we know standalone BI tools have failed to penetrate more than 25% of the average organization. And in most cases, some of these users are only accessing these tools once a week. So whilst modern dashboards are getting more sophisticated and in most cases user-friendly, they're still not accessed as standalone tools, or they still are often accessed as standalone tools outside of line of business. And this separation can mean that you can't guarantee the users are adopting BI, or even in some cases gaining the right insight from their data. Now, this is actually the reason for today's session and what sparked the idea of this video. More and more of our clients are adopting contextual analytics to dramatically change this equation with a deeper merger of analytics and transactions. So we invited Yellowfin back to talk us through this concept of contextual analytics, why it's important, why you need to know about it, and to showcase how it can help your business with a short demo. Now, we have Rob with us today. Rob's going to provide us with an overview of contextual analytics and some of the benefits, how it should be used, and potentially lean on some of Yellowfin's success stories as examples. Rob, welcome back. Let's jump straight in, shall we? You're going to start by telling us a little bit about what is contextual analytics.
Indeed, Christina. Thanks for inviting me along today. So yes, as Christy said, today we're going to be talking about a subject close to my own heart, contextual analytics. So before joining Yellowfin a little over a year ago, I spent 25 years working in and around retail business intelligence. And I have to say that for me, contextual analytics is the most important concept I came across in all that time, at least from a business perspective. So in the next 20-30 minutes, I'm going to explain what it is, give a few tips on how to get started with it, and then highlight some of the features of Yellowfin which help to make it possible. We've got a lot to get through in quite a short time, so if you could, as Christy says, save your questions until the end, that would be great. So there's no fixed definition of contextual analytics, so I'd like to offer up 3 ideas, which I hope will provide some food for thought. And it's been variously described as the brainchild of business intelligence and business process modeling. That one's mine, by the way. The key to data-driven decision making, and the embedding of analytics into business workflows. Now, the middle one is, of course, the most important, since data-driven decision-making and the resulting improvement in business performance is where the return on our investments in analytics comes from. But let's take a moment to explore each of these ideas in a little more depth. So, the brainchild of business intelligence and business process modeling. What does that mean? Well, for those of you who are not familiar with business process modeling, it's an approach to describing how a business actually works. In particular, it focuses on how a business goes about transforming its inputs into its outputs. What are the steps along the way and what decisions need to be made? Business intelligence is about taking the data available to a business and using it to provide what we call decision support, helping people make better decisions. If we put those 2 ideas or approaches together, then what we end up with is a detailed description of how a business works, including the decisions which need to be made and how to use the information available to guide the decision makers. In an increasing number of cases, the end game could be full automation, but typically there's an important intermediate step where we use analytics to inform human decision making. And this is what we're going to be talking about today. What about data-driven decision making? So we've noted that process automation, including automated decision making, could be the ultimate destination, but what are those steps along the way? Well, more than a decade ago, Gartner put forward an analytics continuum which starts with descriptive analytics and progresses through predictive analytics to predictive and ultimately to decision automation. I'm not sure whether they were the first to describe this continuum, but I heard it from them and I've yet to come across a better one. Now, traditional business intelligence deals almost exclusively with descriptive analytics, while modern business intelligence is more about predictive and prescriptive. That's adding the elements of what's going to happen next and what should you do about it. And I think it's important to note that although decision automation can unlock enormous business value when it's used appropriately, it's not always the right solution. So sometimes human input is critical to ensuring socially acceptable outcomes. And even when it is the right ultimate destination, we still need to follow the right path to get there. You may have heard some examples in the news or from anecdotally over the years of examples where businesses have tried to automate decisions and got unfortunate results where, yes, it might have been the best business decision, but they've ended up discriminating against various groups of society who can tend to become very vocal as a result, and the business can suffer as a result of that. So contextual analytics is best thought of as ensuring that business decision makers are equipped with the best available decision support at the moment when they're making their decisions. Depending on the nature of those decisions, that support could take the form of dashboards, automated alerts, reports containing recommendations, or all manner of data visualizations. The important thing is that it needs to be provided in the right way at the right time. So the third idea I mentioned is embedding analytics into business workflows. And this is a really important one to get your head around. So in the past, there was often a disconnect between business systems and business intelligence tools. We gave business users access to BI tools in the hope that they would use them, but often they chose to ignore them. Imagine for a moment that you're Sue, a sales manager in a retail business, and you need to put together a promotion. First thing you need to do is decide which products to include. You have a BI tool, which you know could provide all sorts of relevant information, but you've forgotten your password, and the IT help desk really isn't all that friendly. So you decide to rerun the promotion you did this time last year, which is easy to set up because it's all in the system and you just have to click a button and it's presented to you and you could just change the date. But oh dear, what you don't know is that you're almost out of stock for 2 of the 5 products in that promotion. So not only will you not be able to make the increased sales, but you're most likely to annoy your customers. If only your promotion system had embedded a report to show stock levels for the products in the proposed promotion. Contextual Analytics aims to tackle this kind of issue by presenting carefully chosen analytics to users at just the right moment, making it easier to use them than to ignore them. Doing so requires us to understand how our users work. Now, let's take a quick look at one of my favourite tools of the trade. SIPOC modelling is a structured approach to business analysis, which I find particularly helpful in determining what analytics a business really needs. You can start by applying it to a whole business or organisation. It works best if you start over on the right-hand side by asking, who are we serving? That's your consumers, or you probably think of them as customers. Then you can ask, what products or services are we providing to them? And that's your outputs. Now, how do your consumers assess the quality of your outputs? What customer satisfaction metrics are available? A business should be measuring 2 things here. Actual customer satisfaction, perhaps using a metric such as Net Promoter Score, and product quality. Ideally, the product quality metrics you should measure things which are known to influence customer satisfaction. Taking another step to the left, we come to processes. The goal here is to describe in reasonable detail how the business actually works. In practice, we're going to be documenting our inputs as we go, since very few outputs can be created out of nothing. As we work up our process descriptions, we will inevitably encounter decision points, and it's important to understand and document how decisions are made. It's also important to consider whether and how the quality of the decisions could be improved by providing additional informational inputs. Analytics, for example. For completeness, I would also say that as each input is identified, it should be documented, including information about where it comes from, that is, its supplier. It's also a good idea to consider what quality metrics might usefully be applied to the inputs. Why? Well, by measuring the quality of our inputs, we open the door to more effective supplier management, as well as defect prevention. The earlier in our processes we can identify defective inputs, the lower the cost of rectification is likely to be. Now, this all sounds great in theory, and it is, but there is a catch. While it's certainly a worthwhile exercise to apply this technique to a whole business, it's a big piece of work, which will probably never be complete. Fear not. The technique also works middle out. In other words, you can start with a process, task, or just something that someone does, and use SIPOC to analyse that. If your consumers are within the business, you can always go on to ask how they use the outputs. That is, what processes are your outputs the inputs to? A final word on SIPOC before we take a look at some Yellowfin features which support contextual analytics. The suppliers, inputs, outputs, and consumers that you identify will likely end up being represented as dimensions, while the quality metrics you've identified will become the metrics in your business intelligence model. It's also a good idea to capture some of the key process metrics, start times, end time, duration, success or failure, and so on. And these can form the basis of process improvement projects later on. Right, enough theory. Let's see how we can use Yellowfin to provide contextual analytics. Remember Sue, our sales manager? She's starting her day by looking at a KPI dashboard. The idea of a dashboard, well, is to present all the relevant information in one place, isn't it? Well, yes and no. Probably more no, to be honest. Yes, a dashboard should provide everything you need, but putting everything on a dashboard is like the BI equivalent of shoving everything in the same cupboard. Everything you need is in the cupboard, but the cupboard's a mess and you can't find anything. Same with the dashboard. Effective dashboards are carefully curated. They present only what's important to the task at hand. For some people, it may be possible to present everything they need through a single dashboard. But for others, what we need is a structured set of task-focused dashboards with carefully planned navigation between them. Let's get back to Sue. The first thing she wants to know is how her categories are performing, so she knows where to direct her focus next. In this case, she's being presented with a set of sales totals compared against targets. If the total is a long way below target, she'll know she needs to take action. A less mature organisation might have omitted the targets, but then how would she know whether the number is good or bad? Whenever possible, KPIs should be contextualised so that the user knows how to interpret them. That could be through colour coding, an emoticon, some kind of status message, or by providing a comparator such as the target, as we've done here. Without some form of enrichment, a number is just a number, not information. Let's have a look at that dashboard. Why is the gauge for whiskies red? It looks like a warning, doesn't it? But actually it's just one of the colours in the colour palette. Perhaps it would be a good idea to modify the palette to avoid such emotionally charged colours, as they could be misleading. Now, if she wants to, because there's a problem with the sales versus target, she can drill through to a detailed report showing sales by product, as we can see on the slide there. And this might be presented as a pop-up report, or we could navigate to it. We have choices if you're using Yellowfin, but the point is it's a structured navigation. We know that having seen that there's a problem with a whole category, the most likely thing that the user is going to want to see is a breakdown of what's contributing to it, the subcategories. And we can provide that with a drill down. Now, perhaps you'd like to see product details for a top selling product, the one at the top of the list, in this case, Canadian whiskies. Well, she can do that by clicking on a view button, another way of navigating from one report to another. In this case, an action button in Yellowfin terminology. And again, we can either open up a pop-up report, as we've done here, overlaid on top of the category detail report, or we could navigate to another report entirely. Okay, so we can chain reports together to create drill paths or analytic sequences. What other techniques could we use to nudge our users in the right direction? Well, reports can include action buttons, as we've seen. That one was just a navigation button, but we can include more sophisticated buttons which take the value in the cell in the table and embed it in a hyperlink or URL, and then take us off to another website entirely. So it could be one of your line of business applications, a software as a service application like Salesforce or Microsoft Dynamics, anything really that can accept a parameter of the identifier from the data that you're looking at on the screen. Dashboards can have suitably named subtabs in the structure. We can see that a bit later in the demonstration, but you can guide users through a sequence of analyses using subtabs. In Yellowfin, we've got a feature called presentations, and these are like live PowerPoint decks, which can be used to create analytics wizards. What do I mean by that? Over on the right here, we've got an example where you have a series of slides 1 to 4 in this case, and on each one we have either static content to help guide the user what's coming next, or embedded visualizations. And these visualizations can be interactive. So on this one, we've captured a screen where we can see the pop-ups. It's the tooltip that pops up on one of the elements of the graph. And if you've got drill down on the visualization, that's still enabled within a presentation. So you can use it to step through a sequence of analytics in an order that makes sense for a particular task. And you can provide commentary and instructions on the pages in between if you wish, or indeed alongside them on the same slides. And in a dashboard, your ultimate get out of jail free card, if you like, is dashboard code mode. We've got an example here of what that looks like. This is the dashboard editor that we're looking at on the bottom left of the slide. And within that, you have the ability to edit the HTML, hypertext markup language, the JavaScript code, and the styling, CSS style sheet elements. Now, the JavaScript is really powerful because you can do all sorts of things in JavaScript. You can make calls to external websites, external functionality. You can embed Java server pages. You can make REST API calls. And you can also use it to customize the behavior of your Yellowfin dashboard. So also all sorts of things can be achieved with that, including database write-back, which this code snippet would actually do for you. So really powerful. But that's not all. So far, we've talked about features within the BI tool, the things that you can use to enrich your reports and dashboards and the navigation between them. The next step is to embed the analytics in your line of business applications. And for that, I'm going to switch over to a live demonstration of one demonstration application that we've built. Bear with me 1 second. So what we're looking at here is what we call our Liquoria or Big Fish demonstration and it's an order management application. So what we're seeing on the screen is actually a login to a Java application, not to Yellowfin tool yet. So we'll go ahead and log in. Occasionally it's a little bit slow because the demonstration site's running on the other side of the Atlantic. So what we're seeing here is, as I say, an order management application. The idea here is there's the orders, so the products are listed. We can edit the orders if we wish to create a new order. The point is that at the point the user is modifying those orders, they're presented with lots of relevant analytics, so they can see sales of products such as last month, they can see the top category sellers, and if there are pieces of information that they should be aware of in a more general context, then we're providing management updates. So these are stories, another Yellowfin feature which allows you to communicate with your users in the form of analytics once again. And as in the case of presentations, analytics which are embedded within stories, as we'll take a look at one, we can see that they remain live. So we've opened up a story here. It's like it's like a data-centric blog post. You can see who made the posts, you can see who's read it, nicely formatted with graphics and your own text, but it embeds visualizations from the BI tool from Yellowfin, and those visualizations are still interactive, so I can view them. Well, I can see the tooltips in this case. These ones don't really have drill down enabled on them, so that there's not much I can do. But on a different visualization where drill down is enabled, that's still possible within the story. So as you can see, quite a powerful way of communicating with your users. We also have an element down here of other elements of the product. So signals is a nice element. If we have a quick look at a signal that comes up, this is a part of the product which trawls through your data looking for interesting patterns and changes, particularly changes to patterns. So if you have a data point which is spiking significantly high, like these ones on the chart, a signal will be generated which you may want to investigate. So it's making you aware of things you might not otherwise notice. I mean, the alternative would be to be trawling through all your data, looking at lots of graphs. Most of the time there might be nothing to see. Occasionally you might find a spike which you'd investigate. Well, Yellowfin can do that for you in the background, tell you when there's a spike, create a signal which you can then click on. You can then view it, as we have here, on a timeline and see, well, is this something that happens regularly, or is it something that is more unusual? Help you decide whether or not you want to investigate it further. You can expand the timeline to look at over a longer time period. You can see related metrics. So the signal, it relates to sales amount. We can also see other metrics in our data model which are correlated to varying degrees with sales amount. We can see how closely correlated they are. All useful information for helping us to figure out, well, what's causing that spike? And it's not just spikes. We can also see when data or categorical values, so things like a product sold every month for 12 months, but then it disappeared. It will tell us that. Really useful information. Having identified a signal, you can collaborate around it. So a user can take ownership of the signal. It can say, right, I'll own that. I will investigate it, probably create a story describing it and what's happened. Or if I think, you know what, we know all about that already, I can just go ahead and dismiss it, and the system will learn from that and be less likely to present it to us next time. So coming back to our application, we've seen that we have the ability to embed visualizations from our BI tool and present them alongside elements of the line of business application. That in itself is really powerful. What we've done here in addition is integrate the BI tool itself with our application. So if I click over on here on the My Dashboards tab, what I'm actually doing behind the scenes is signing on to Yellowfin, my BI tool. And in this case, we can see that because the URL changes subtly. It doesn't have to change. It could just be a folder underneath that. There's various ways you could present it. But the point is, visually, the application itself hasn't really changed. It still looks like I'm in the line of business application that I've written. That's because this header section is common to both. And that's one of the standard techniques for integrating an application with Yellowfin. You can seamlessly navigate between them, and it looks like you're just moving around within the application that your business has written. Now, within the dashboards, again, just give you some examples of some of the things that you can see. Yellowfin has a wide range of visualizations available. We have these filters, linked filters. We're into more traditional analytics here. To be honest, this is probably not really contextual analytics, but what you can do is you can launch one of these dashboards from your application and pre-select the various filters. And that very much is contextual analytics. Really, really powerful stuff. I can view reports in there as well. So hopefully that's given you a bit of a flavor of the sort of things that you can do by embedding the output of your BI tool into your applications. How's that achieved? Well, behind the way this is written, as I said, it's a Java application. It doesn't have to be Java. We've got customers who are writing their applications in all kinds of languages for the front end. So they could be JavaScript applications using React or Angular. We've got customers using our own Delphi from our sister product Embarcadero. We've got other customers using C# and Python to build their applications and websites. All of them can embed Yellowfin content either into iframes or using the JavaScript API just into their web pages. Very flexible, very powerful. So if all this has whetted your appetite, what can you do next? We've got Contextual Analytics white paper on our website. Again, you can ask for this deck afterwards, and the links will be live. But essentially, if you navigate to yellowfinbi.com, all of these materials can be found there. You can request a demonstration. You can also do that by contacting our host today, Engaging Data. I'd be more than happy to talk to you. You can see our embedded analytics maturity model, again, which talks in a bit more detail about that continuum that we described earlier. Hopefully, you've taken on board that the best way to get value out of business intelligence is to combine it with process modeling. You have to understand what your business users are trying to achieve so that you can then present them with exactly the right analytics for the task at hand, and ideally do so by embedding those analytics within your business workflows. That's the key message for today.
Before I let everybody go, I want to say a big thank you to Rob for joining us today. It's always great to hear a bit more about Yellowfin, and we love seeing it working. And I really liked your approach to explaining contextual analytics with those 3 ideas in your first slide. And having previously spent time in retail as well, the example you gave with Sue, the sales manager, and her retail promotion really resonated with me. And it'd been great to have had a tool like Yellowfin a few years ago. So yeah, thanks to everyone for joining us. Like I said, we'll share the recording out, so keep an eye out for that. And keep an eye out for some other sessions coming up as well. Engaging Data will be doing another session with our mutual partner at Warescape, where we'll be talking all things data automation. And as Rob said, Yellowfin have got lots of stuff going on as well. There'll be more webinars and things, and there's a whole load of material on their website. It's definitely worth checking out. So keep an eye out for that as well. We'll share any links, anything that's relevant out to you all. And I think that's it. That's it from me. No questions come through, Rob, so we can leave everyone to enjoy the rest of their day. Thanks again for coming along. Thanks long for Rob and the team at Yellowfin for help. Take care, everyone. We'll see you again.